Hey guys, welcome back to Heart Breathings. We are talking about some of the top tips and lessons I have learned through 8 years of successful self-publishing. Today we are moving on to tip number 5, and that is that you cannot do it all. This is a huge lesson learned, and some of the things that you've heard me talk about on this channel before, if you've followed me, will ring a bell in this one video. And if you are new to this series or new to my channel, you can go back and start with tip number 1 if you'd like. I have linked it down below, or you can start here. These don't have to go in any order, but I will have 8 full tips for you, one for each year of my indie publishing. So I hope that you'll stick around and subscribe to this channel, hit that notification bell so that you'll get notified every time there's a new video from me. But let's get started with tip number 5, which is that you cannot do it all. Oh man, guys, this is a tough one. Not just when it comes to all of the things that we have to do. Like, sometimes you don't realize when you sign up for this whole self-publishing indie career, you may not realize, because I didn't at the beginning, that you are actually signing up to be an entrepreneur, to be the CEO of your own little publishing business. First of all, you have to come up with all the ideas, all the strategies, figure out what you're going to write. You have to know how to plot. You have to write the books, which takes time and a lot of skill and effort and learning that's involved in that. Then you've got to edit your books. You have to find and hire a professional editor. You have to be an art director, because even if you find a really great cover artist, you have to be the one to direct them on what type of cover you want, what types of fonts you want used. You have to know where you're putting that book in the store. You know, it's no publisher is going to tell you, well, this is a romance and this is an urban fantasy versus a contemporary fantasy or whatever. You have to know that because you're the publisher. So you have to understand where your book gets placed, how it gets marketed to readers, what kind of blurb you want to put or description, what keywords are go on that book. And I could just go on and on and on, not to mention pricing and how you're going to market the book long term, and your backlist, and whether you're going to do paperbacks or, you know, Audible books or whatever, audio books. There is so much that goes into being a self-published author. And, you know, it goes way beyond just writing the books and putting them up on Amazon or Google Play or iBooks or wherever. There's so much more that goes into this process, and each genre has its own quirks. Every vendor has its own quirks and rules. Like Kobo Books has this really great interface where you can apply for promotions. It's one of my favorite things about that vendor, and one of the reasons that I highly recommend that you choose to go wide with your career, but that is a discussion for another day. But if you go to Google Play Books, they don't have that promotions list for you. If you go to Amazon, you know, you just get picked for promotions or not, and pretty much the only promotions that are available to people who are exclusive. But there are lots of different quirks about every single publisher. The royalty rates are different, the terms of service are different, and there's just a lot of things that you need to know. And then on top of all this information that you need to learn and you need to know to run your business most efficiently and to the best of your ability, there's also a lot of things that you need to do. Like, if you were to sit down, even 8 years in, successfully making 6 figures a year for the past several years, if I were to sit down and make a to-do list right now, it would probably blow your mind, because there is not only all these little things to learn, which I have learned a lot of over the years, but there are also a jillion things to do. If I want to be on all the different social media outlets and be posting every day, and they each have their own things, and do I want to run Insta stories, and, you know, I've got to get my paperbacks updated, and I just had a new release, so I need to go back to my old backlist and update those ebooks to put the links in. And, you know, there's just so many things you wouldn't even think about. So what you need to understand, and the faster you can get this and really master this, the better off you're going to be, both emotionally and, you know, just in your business, period, is that the secret to doing it all is knowing that you can't. There is literally no way, unless you just happen to be independently wealthy, or you have built your career up to such a point that you have 5 assistants and a CFO and whatever. You've got a whole staff working for you. Unless you're at that level, and if you are, you probably aren't watching my videos, but unless you're at that level, you're doing it all yourself, almost exclusively yourself, which means you don't have time to do it all. You could literally run yourself into the ground doing every little thing on an author's to-do list or everything other people tell you you should do, and you'd never get it done, and you'd never have time for writing, which, let's face it, if you really start to prioritize what's most important in your career as a writer, you can believe that actually writing happens to be one of the most important things. Little secret from me to you. You need to get your writing done, which means you have to have that creative space instead of, making your creativity somehow fit inside the cracks of all these other things that you have to do. And you can't just be like, well, I'm going to prioritize all of the business things and I'm never going to write, because that you would have nothing to sell. So you really do have to balance your creative writing time with the time that you spend on your business. And one of the most valuable things that you can learn to do, whether you're at the beginning of your career or whether you're in the middle or you've been doing this for 20 years and you're just trying indie publishing, wherever you are in your career, one of the most important things you can do for yourself is visualize where you want to be long term, and then begin to prioritize all those little things on your to-do list until you know, okay, these are the things that are most important because they're going to move me toward that ideal vision for my life. Now, I talk about this a lot when I talk about my 90-day planning. You may have seen I have a video on how I use a Kanban board to plan for 90 days. So every 90 days, I set 3 main goals for myself. And sometimes those goals stay the same each 90 days, but it's the projects and tasks underneath those goals that change. So I have my high level goals. I have the 3 things that I know I'm working toward at all times. Then I sit down and I look at everything that I'm supposed to do, all the things on my giant to-do list that can make me feel so overwhelmed if I think I need to do it all. And I start to prioritize, okay, for where I am right now for this 90 days, what are the most important projects that I need to tackle that are going to make the most impact in my career and in my life? Every 90 days, those projects are different. It may be a different book project. It may be getting more videos out or concentrating on working on my new course or whatever it is. But every 90 days, those projects are different. And then what I do is once I've decided which projects are going to help move me toward those goals, then I break those projects down into tiny little tasks, like bite-sized things that I could get done in a single day or a single afternoon. And all of those tasks go up on this board here that you see with all of these Post-it notes in the back. And this is basically a traditional Kanban board, except usually I think they go from like left to right, and I put mine top to bottom because that's the space that I had in this room. But I put all of my tasks at the beginning of every 90 days on that top row. And then as I'm working on that task, I move it to that middle section. And then once that task is done, I move it to the bottom. And you'll see there are 4 different colors there because the yellow is for my personal life. So that's like books I want to read. I have it broken down into chapters and different things like that. And that's just personal stuff. It's okay if I don't clear that stuff out. But I'm hoping that by the end of December, most of that board in terms of the blue, the pink, and the teal will be moved down to the bottom of that row, which means I've accomplished all of the projects and tasks that I set aside to hit my goals. So for example, just to touch on this lightly, one of my goals might be to publish and promote books in order to raise my income to $25,000 a month. So if that is my goal, it has a number attached to it. I know how I can, it would be very clear at the end of December if I have hit that or not, because I will either be making $25,000 a month or I won't. And in order to choose which projects go under that, I will just say, okay, if I'm talking about publishing and promoting my books, which projects in the scope of that idea or that goal are going to help me to hit this particular income goal of $25,000 per month? So then I will set, the projects. So a project might be to write and promote book 10 of my Shadow Demon Saga, which just came out last week. So that's why you see a lot of those teal ones are already on the bottom. So all of those teal tasks are things like plot the book, write 5,000 words, write 10,000 words, get to 15,000 words, edit the book, send it to beta readers, all the launch stuff that happens, like send out my ARCs to the ARC team, Facebook Live to promote it to my fans, create teasers, all that stuff is on the board so that I know what I'm working toward at any time. That is what I know I'm focusing on for this 90 days. But that is nowhere near all the things that I feel like I need to be doing or I should be doing. For example, there are lots of things related to my newsletter list or to, wanting to get my main series into audio and just a ton of other things like that are things I would like to do and would probably benefit me. But what I have learned over the course of the last 8 years is that if I focus on all the things that need to get done, what tends to happen is I get a little bit done on this project, a little bit done here, a little bit done here, and whatever is pulling at my attention at any given moment is what gets all of my attention. So I end up at the end of, a year even with all of these like half-started projects and nothing that's been consistent or that I've finished or, so I'll have like one email and a newsletter sequence done or maybe 3 or 4, but I never published it because I didn't finish it. I'll have started some teasers by downloading some stock images and choosing the quotes that I want to use, but then I never had time to actually create them and post them. And now that launch is gone and it's a waste of time. Or if it was related to this YouTube video, maybe I would script out a bunch of things and plan my editorial calendar, but I never got around to actually recording the videos. And what I saw happening was I was living my entire life like this. I was constantly running around, constantly working my tail off, and I was just never finishing my projects. I was getting a little bit into this and then I would panic that this wasn't done. So I would move on to task C, then move on to task D, move on to E. And I just had this mountain of unfinished projects and I wasn't moving forward in my career. And not to mention, I told you I was going to be talking more about the mindset and mental challenges of being a self-published author. And this is one of them. When you feel like your to-do list is just a mountain of things and you're not actually making progress on them and you don't have a plan for how you're going to actually complete things that are going to move you forward, it is very, very easy to get extremely overwhelmed and to just start to feel like the world is against you and you're not moving anywhere, and it can be easy to get down on yourself. And that kind of stuff can steal your joy. The same way that I was talking about in tip number 1, that comparison can steal your joy. Being overwhelmed constantly can steal your joy. And I'm sure that many of you know this from other areas of your life, not just your writing, but once you get into actually doing this as a career and professionally being your own publisher, there will just be so many things that you feel you need to do. And the key to surviving it, to really thriving and doing the best that you can do and continuing to move forward is to really sit down and think about what it is that you want from your career as an individual person, not what other people tell you to want or what society says you should want, but what do you want? What does your ideal life look like? And if you want to dive into that a little bit more, I have a couple of resources for you that I will link down below. One is I have a free download on my website that is a bunch of questions that lead you on this journey of what do you really want out of your self-publishing career. So that's a great resource for you. All you have to do is head over to my website. I will link that down below. And another resource is I have a 90-day planner that helps you go through this entire process of setting up your, figuring out what your vision is, choosing your goals, your projects, your tasks, and all of that leads you through this whole thing. And then it has a planner of, a monthly, weekly, and a daily planner to help you plan out the next 90 days. And that is on Etsy. And I will share that link for you down below. Of course, that is for right now. The one that's up there is for Q4, which is, started in October and we're now into November. So I will have an undated version as well as one, the 2019 planners going up on Etsy sometime before December. So just be on the lookout for that if you don't want to start like mid 90 days. And then I also have a course that I teach that's a 3-day boot camp that is all about like really intensively going through this. So you can go with the free portion, the $15 planner, or the $100-something course. Whatever helps you, I am 100% here to help you. But I just wanted you to know about those resources because these have been developed from me, because it's something that I needed in my own career to get myself on track and to be as productive as possible. Because you guys have heard from me before that I started this year with 5 different series going. So if you're new to my channel, you may not know this, but at the beginning of this year, I had a little over 20 books published in my career, but I had 5 series going at once, and I was super overwhelmed, and I was really in a big bind because I had all those series going. I just made a decision that I was going to get through those 5 series and enjoy the process, really put my whole heart into those books so that I could finish the series in ways that would make me proud, but wouldn't burn me out like crazy. I really had a passion for starting Heart Breathings, which I knew I wanted to do on YouTube as a resource for other authors who, like me, wanted to write books that they love, but also make money doing it and find joy in this business. And so I knew it was going to be a really tough year in terms of things to do. So out of necessity, this is a program that I developed for myself. And as I started with the YouTube channel, I started realizing other people said they were in need of this kind of stuff too. So that's why I've made some of these resources available for you as well. So I have, with the help of this system, been more productive than I've ever been in my entire life in this last year. And I really hope that I can keep it going, because I've really figured out a good way to keep myself balanced and to know exactly what I need to be working on and just sort of let the rest of it go. Because otherwise I sit here and I would think, oh my gosh, there's just so much to do. I'm always behind. And it made me panic. It made me feel bad about myself. It made me doubt my own self-worth, my own ability to continue on with this career. And I just didn't want to live that way. I am a writer because I love to write, and I wanted to get back to the joy of creating and the joy of connecting with my fans and the joy of putting, myself out there in this way. And the best way that I found to get back to that place of really enjoying myself and loving my career and my life was to understand there's just no way to do it all. So I need to prioritize what I'm doing and what gets my focus based on where I want to go in the long term. And if something seems like it's a good to-do list item, like putting my books into audio, if that doesn't seem like it's going to move me forward toward my long-term vision for my life more so than something else, then it just doesn't go on the list right now. And I know that I will eventually get to a point where I address the audiobooks, but it has not been time for that. So instead of panicking about not having time for, getting my books into audio, I just have found peace with, okay, these are my tasks. This is what I'm working on. And I know I'm moving forward and making progress, but I don't have to panic about the things that are not getting done, because I am not doing them on purpose so that I can actually complete and finish projects. And so what has happened over the course of the last year and a half of following this program is I'm actually getting things done. I started a YouTube channel. I finished my first course. I've written 5 books. I've gotten a lot more actually done, completed projects, rather than all these little pieces that are just barely started without actually finishing them and getting them, what people would call shipping them. So that is one of my top tips, is that you really just can't do it all. So don't expect yourself to do every little thing that all these other authors are doing. And, because I have been so diligent this year, I have actually been able to hire an assistant who is helping me get through some of these items. So that's going to help. And as time goes on and my income increases and my, how specific I am about what needs to get done increases, hopefully I'll be able to increase her hours as well. And so that will help. And it's just really a process. Just understand that you really are not going to be able to do it all. And as a side note, you're not going to be able to write it all either. Ideas for us as creatives are going to come out of the blue. You could be in the middle of a 12-book series and you get these new ideas. Well, guess what? If you do like I did and you just start writing everything that comes into your head, you're going to end up putting yourself in a very, very dangerous situation, because you'll be writing 5 series all at once. And that's just not a great way to build your fan base. And it's not a great way to run your career, because unless you can write a book a month, and even then you're only getting to a new book in every series every 5 to 6 months, it's just really not the best way to do it. And I have learned over time that one of the strongest things that you can do as an indie is to have a long, at least 5-book series where you've got consistent releases coming out in that series back to back. So if you have 5 series going at once, you're just not going to be able to have that consistency unless you can write really, really fast. I, at max, can write a book every 2 to 3 months, and that's like really, really pushing myself. So I have pushed myself quite a bit this year, but I would like to be able to slow down. And my ideal would be to write 2 to 3 books a year, which means I really need to be focused on one series at a time. So understanding that not only can you not do everything on your to-do list, but you're not going to be able to write every single book that pops into your head. And as interesting as it may sound and as heartbreaking as it may be, you're just probably not going to have the time, because even if you say, oh, I'm really excited about this idea, I'm going to put it off for 3 years until this series is done. Between now and 3 years from now, you're probably going to have 20 more ideas that you absolutely love. So again, you have to really prioritize, like, what moves you towards your ideal vision of your life? What story really turns you on? What story is one that you just have to tell? Which story matches the branding of the career that you've built or is going to appeal to the fans that you already have? There's a lot of questions there. And if you guys would like to see a video on how to choose what to write based on your priorities, I would love to talk more about that. But it's just understanding, as you know, as tip number 5, is understanding that you can't do it all. You can't write every single idea. You're going to have to step back and look at all the things you have to do and begin to prioritize and only choose the biggest items that are going to move you forward the most in your career. And hopefully that tip resonates with you, even though it can be a hard one to hear. Again, if you are interested in some of those resources, they will be linked down for you down below in the description box, as well as tips 1 through 4 that I have shared so far in this series. I hope that you will check them out. I hope that you will hit the like button on this video and leave a comment down below, as well as subscribing and hitting that notification bell so that you'll get notified whenever a new video goes up from me. All right, guys, I will be back in a couple of days with tip number 6. So I will see you in the next video. Bye.